well met, and huzzah, because I felt like being weird today. Here's the tip, I'm weird every day. Anyway, I'm Jin, and you're listening to Tor Noob, a podcast for the newer player of the MMO game Star Wars The Old Republic. Today's episode will be devoted to what's worth knowing before you log into the game for the first time. I've narrowed it down to 5 things, and I'll be explaining each one. I'll stop wasting your time and get on with it. Number 1, the game client download will take some hours. Number 2, there are 2 factions. If you're familiar with World of Warcraft, they have the Alliance and the Horde. SWTOR has the Republic and the Empire. Number 3, there are 3 combat roles: tank, healer, or DPS. Number 4, there are 3 tiers of gameplay: free-to-play, preferred, and subscription. And number 5, there are 3 things you cannot change about your character once he or she is created: gender, your basic class, and your advanced class. This game client is a hefty download at 19 gigabytes. Make sure you have the hard drive space to commit to this game, and that your system specs are powerful enough. My single-core processor in my older netbook is too slow to run this game, but my Core 2 Duo laptop is considered fast enough to get by. Even once the client is downloaded and you sign into your account for the first time, there's going to be a secondary wait as the patch is downloaded and installed. I recommend that you let this game download during a time in which your computer is idle, such as when you're out of the house, you're at work, or you're asleep. Something you'll want to think about as you're waiting for that massive download is which faction you want to participate in. This could depend on how good or evil you want to play your character, or whether you have friends who already play this game on one side or the other. Personally, I see a slight general preference for the Empire, no matter what server I'm on. I prefer the Republic side of things myself. There's enough game for everyone, so it's all good. Now, the Republic is the game equivalent of a westernized civilization. Many nations participate in a democratic process governed by a Senate. Each world is represented by a senator, who votes with other senators on laws and rules that define how this faction is governed. This faction is a cooperative one. Its leader is designated by voting, rather than inheritance or domination. The Empire, by contrast, is ruled by a single entity known as the Emperor. His power is absolute and influences everyone underneath him in a strict hierarchy. This is the game equivalent of something you might find in a communist society. In this faction, you always serve some master or another. The Republic is not necessarily good and the Empire is not necessarily bad, but that is the most simplistic way to look at them. While you're waiting for the game client to download and patch, go ahead and read something. I would suggest SWTOR.wikia.com. SWTOR, SWTOR.wikia, WIKIA.com. I particularly suggest the section entitled Classes. If you've played other games, whether it's an RPG or another MMO, think about your style of gameplay. There are 3 combat types available in SWTOR: tank, healer, and DPS, and this will directly influence which class you end up playing. The abilities of a tank make them easily able to hold the aggro of an opponent. That is, the opponent will choose to fight the tank and ignore everyone else. The tank can take a lot of damage in comparison to the other combat types. A tank differs from a DPS in that a tank cannot give as much damage to opponents as a DPS class can. And while a tank can dabble in DPS, they are never a healer. A healer is much easier to be killed than a tank, something I call being squishy, but their abilities allow them to heal themselves and others in and out of combat. A healer can dabble in DPS, but they can never be a tank. Now, veteran players will be quick to point out that the companion Shriek can be a tank and a healer, but I'm trying to keep this very simple. Companions will be covered in a separate podcast episode. DPS stands for damage per second, and this combat type doles out more damage than a tank or a healer can. A DPS is not as strong as a tank as far as taking damage goes, and they don't heal themselves as efficiently as a healer can. Of the 3 combat types, a character who specializes in DPS will be more difficult to play than the other types. It happens to be the most popular as well, judging by the PvP queues. The tank will take longer to kill a thing, but they won't have to heal quite as frequently, and a healer can also take longer to kill a thing, but they can heal quickly and continue on. A DPS character will take significant damage during the course of a fight, and require some moments to heal back to full before heading back into combat. Also, because a DPS-centric character has more fighting abilities than the other classes, their quick bar is more complicated, the combination of combat skills more challenging to use most efficiently. This game does strive, even bending over backwards, to make sure that all 3 combat types are balanced, and they're continually being adjusted for just that. That means that no matter what you play, you don't particularly have an advantage or a disadvantage to playing one class or the other, so it is truly up to your own choice what style of play you prefer. So read the Wikia. You will choose a basic class immediately upon character creation, and you'll choose one of two advanced classes anytime after level 10 through an in-game choice. Now you don't have to decide on an advanced class right this moment, but it is worthwhile to think about your style of gameplay to choose the best basic class for you. I mentioned 3 tiers of account status, so I'll go into that for a moment. Think of the free-to-play option as an unlimited trial version of the game. Back in 2012, BioWare was noticing a decline in their player base. They wanted to inject some new enthusiasm into the game. They went the route of other successful MMOs, and they gave people the option to experience the game with relatively few restrictions, the ability to experience the vast majority of the game without ever giving BioWare a dime. The maximum character level of SWTOR is level 55, and you can play up to level 50 as a free-to-play account on any available class and advanced class. It will take you longer to level with reduced XP gain in comparison to preferred and subscribed accounts, but you can still level freely. There are very few things in this game you do not have access to, and by spending in-game credits or real-life money in the form of cartel coins, you can unlock abilities that make the game a little more enjoyable. I'll definitely be making a podcast episode that focuses on this particular aspect of the game specifically, but rest assured, almost everything can be unlocked with sufficient time and credits without ever spending real-life money if you don't want to. I went the free-to-play route myself when a friend let me know that this game was successfully sucking his life away, and I got curious. After 11 levels on my first character, I realized what a blast I was having, and that I wanted to unlock some things to make leveling more time efficient. I've been a subscriber since. The subscription costs $14.99 a month USD, and it unlocks almost everything that this game has to offer. Basically, the only things you would ever have to unlock if you want to are cosmetic changes, a character rename, additional character slots for a maximum of 22 slots, additional inventory slots, additional cargo storage, and other things I'm not familiar with because I don't explore every single option with this game. There is a third tier of gameplay that I have saved for last because it falls somewhere between the low free-to-play option and the high-end subscription option. An account can become preferred in 2 different ways. You either spend real-life money to buy cartel coins or the expansion at SWTOR.com even once, or your account has once been a subscription but you have cancelled for whatever reason. Even an account that has only been at the subscription level for 1 month unlocks quite a few nice things that would cost significant in-game currency to gain as a free-to-play account. More available character slots and species choices, for example. So eventually, when you finally log into the game for the first time, you're presented with the creation of your first character. Armed with the knowledge of factions and available classes, most of your time will be spent making your character look the way you want him or her to look, and you will decide on a name. The in-game random name generator can be useful, and unlike World of Warcraft, not every single generated name is taken. For increased uniqueness, I tend to change the first letter to something more obscure like the letter X or Z. You won't know whether your name is acceptable until you hit the play button. If your name is unique, immediately you're launched into your very first dialogue cutscene with an NPC. You will hear your character speak, and you'll be provided options with which to respond to an NPC. Now, it doesn't matter what option you choose in this first conversation, it has no lasting effects to the rest of the game, so have fun with it. After that, you leave the room you entered the game with, and you never return to that room. You generally travel to a different area, you'll see another NPC to talk to, and you'll receive your first quest, usually something in which you have to do a thing or talk to someone, and from there, you're off and running. I am planning a series of videos in which you can see an example of gameplay from levels 1 to 10. At level 10, you leave your beginning planet and travel to your faction's fleet, an orbiting space station that serves as a major social hub for people of all levels. It is on Fleet that you choose your advanced class, you pick up crew skills, and continue on to the capital planet of your faction. But that, my friends, is a different podcast episode. Show notes, useful links, and downloads can be found at my website, tornoob.com. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, so be sure to check out those links. I'm working on getting my podcast listed in iTunes and the free Stitcher app for iOS and Android. Basically, I want this podcast to be found in as many places and on as many devices as possible, because options are awesome. I hope you'll give this game a try, and thank you for giving me a try. Join me next time when I discuss classes in more detail and what to expect with your first 3 levels. I'm Jin, this is Tor Noob, recorded June 13th, 2014. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes those are the joys you're looking for.